The land that would become the United Kingdom has a history stretching back nearly a million years, beginning in the prehistoric Paleolithic period around 950,000 years ago. The earliest evidence of civilization dates to approximately 8000 BC, when hunter gatherers from Europe crossed into Britain, becoming known as the first Britons. These early inhabitants developed a primitive economy based on trading native wildlife like elk, wild cattle, and pigs while defending themselves against wolves and bears that roamed the land. Archaeologists have discovered numerous stone tools from this period, including hand axes and carved stone edges, though human remains are incredibly rare, making it difficult to determine exactly which hominid species lived there. During this time, Britain was still connected to the European mainland, allowing groups to spread and relocate easily across the landmass. The wooden spears discovered in Essex, dating back approximately 450,000 years, provide rare and valuable evidence of early hunting and scavenging practices. As techniques advanced, Neanderthals began strategizing to hunt larger prey like woolly rhinos and mammoths. The Upper Paleolithic era saw humans evolve physically into our modern form, though harsh ice age conditions forced many inhabitants to leave at certain times. Around 11,300 years ago, Britain began warming, leading to flourishing birch and pine forests and the spread of oak, hazel, lime, and elm trees. The changing climate transformed animal populations, with reindeer and horses drawing hunters from across Europe to settle in Britain. As conditions continued warming, hunters adapted to pursue red deer and boar, forcing humans to evolve their tools and technology for survival. During the Mesolithic period, around 6,300 years ago, groups established winter and summer camps, moving seasonally to prevent depleting local resources. This lifestyle led to coastal settlements and the development of tools for catching fish and mollusks, expanding human knowledge of the ocean. Around 4100 BC, agricultural techniques arrived from the east, coinciding with a population boom that depleted traditional animal resources. The British landscape transformed as inhabitants created mass flint tools with wooden handles to clear land for fields and settlements. Barley and emmer became primary crops, while pigs and cattle were bred for meat rather than killed immediately. This shift towards self sufficiency introduced the first domestic buildings, including long houses and long barrows for the dead. The Neolithic period brought significant changes to technology, landscape, and settlements, introducing causeway enclosures and cursus monuments. The longest discovered enclosure in Britain measured an incredible 10 kilometers. Arrowhead designs evolved into leaf shapes for improved aerodynamics, later changing to chisel and transverse styles as different groups shared their crafting expertise. By the Middle Neolithic period, settlers relied less on wild animal hunting, depending instead on their own livestock. Stonehenge, erected in Wiltshire between 2600 and 2200 BC, remains one of the most famous monuments from this era, believed to have served ritual and astronomical purposes. The Bronze Age began in 2200 BC, ushering in metalworking with bronze alloy, though this material was rarer than iron ore. Bronze could be cast at lower temperatures than copper, allowing craftsmen to create elaborate designs for daggers, axes, and other durable tools. Beaker style pots continued evolving with improved designs and decorations, sometimes still containing honey residue from ancient beer. Longer daggers eventually became the first swords made in Britain called rapiers. As social tensions grew, more weapons and shields appeared, with some intentionally damaged before being placed in hoards to prevent reuse by enemies. The Bronze Age saw the first cremations, though remains were often scattered or placed in moving water, showing how people mastered fire for burning human remains and casting metal. Boundaries around land appeared, traded and claimed by dominant families, with agriculture and copper mines becoming essential to daily life. A historically significant site at Great Orme in Wales provided 90% of the ore used to create axes throughout northwestern Europe. Around 1000 BC, climate change made many areas uninhabitable, forcing settlers to move on, while others repurposed fields for livestock, building walkways and raised settlements over wetlands. Near the end of the Bronze Age, rapier blades evolved into flat blades with full tanks, making weapons both art forms and necessities. Hoards became rarer, believed due to bronze's dropping value, marking the first example of market strategy in British history. The Iron Age began around 1200 BC, revolutionizing civilization with extensive iron and steel crafting. Steel's superior strength and durability improved tools and weaponry, leading to more resilient settlements and advancements in farming, art, religious beliefs, and alphabetic writings. The European Iron Age spread from the Mediterranean toward Central Europe, with skills reaching Northern Europe by 600 BC. The early Iron Age was dominated by the Hallstatt chiefs who established fortified hill forts and raised livestock on their lands, precursors to future castles and palaces. In 450 BC, the Hallstatt culture crumbled, allowing other groups like the Greeks, Romans, and Celts to rise to power. The Celts, though considered barbarians by the Greeks and Romans, became one of the most successful groups in British history, spreading throughout Britain, Ireland, France, and Spain. Despite thriving for centuries when the Roman Empire grew, Julius Caesar launched an all out attack, slaying thousands and crushing Celtic settlements. Caesar's Roman army attempted to invade Britain but failed, allowing the Celts to populate the land, though the Roman involvement in British history was only just beginning. By the time Romans arrived, Iron Age settlements had advanced significantly with thriving agriculture, wooden structures, and large communities. Trading routes connected Britain to Gaul, where wine and currency were exchanged. Julius Caesar returned in 55-4 BC out of stubbornness and interest in controlling trading, though his invasion attempts ultimately failed. Caesar managed to persuade the Roman Senate to support his invasion by claiming the land was rich in silver, a claim without proof. Britain remained hidden and undetected by many Romans, with some believing the island of Albion was merely a legend. Caesar's plan met with initial defeat, forcing retreat. Undeterred, he returned with 5 legions, storming across the Thames and negotiating a peace treaty with the British chieftain Cassivellaunus. Caesar never returned to Britain, and after a civil war, the republic crumbled under Emperors Augustus and Caligula, who continued growing their empire in Gaul. In 43 AD, Emperor Claudius sailed across the sea with 4 legions, beginning the serious invasion of Britain. Despite spending only 16 days on the island, Claudius was hailed as a hero upon returning to Rome. The empire continued its invasion, swiftly taking Celtic territories before spreading north and west. By 60 AD, much of Wales was under Roman control and cities like Londinium, see modern London, were established. The Romans implemented their culture, building amphitheaters, baths, and teaching Latin to inhabitants. By 130 AD, formidable military garrisons were constructed throughout the continent. Britain was eventually split into Britannia Superior and Britannia Inferior for more efficient rule. However, spreading control attracted attention from enemies, and the island faced attacks from the Picts of Scotland, Scots of Ireland, and Saxons from Germany. A successful rebellion led to the kingdom separating from Rome before being recaptured in 296 AD. By the end of the 4th century, with Christianity emerging on the continent, the Romans slowly lost control of Europe. The lack of food resources spelled the end of the Roman Empire, and British cities were told to defend themselves as the empire finally fell. Local governments overthrew Roman magistrates, but Roman culture continued shaping the country we see today. Britain broke into smaller kingdoms, beginning a phase of regression known as the Dark Ages. In 793 AD, Norse people from Scandinavia reached British shores, uh, plundering a Christian monastery and ushering in the Viking Age. As more longboats arrived, the barbaric invaders raided coastal settlements. In 865, the Great Heathen Army, led by Ivar the Boneless, son of Ragnar Lothbrok, arrived in East Anglia. King Edmund the Martyr offered provisions and shelter to be spared, but was captured, tortured, and killed. Within a couple of years, the Vikings captured York, capital of Northumbria. By 870, all kingdoms except Wessex had fallen. Danish warlord Guthrum the Old led the Norse army, while Alfred the Great remained king of Wessex. The two forces met at the Battle of Edington in 878, where Alfred claimed victory, leading to the Treaty of Wedmore. Guthrum was baptized, with Alfred becoming his godfather, and the Vikings were ordered to leave Wessex. The two rulers defined boundaries and opened trade routes. Viking customs took hold in territories they owned, creating Danelaw with Derby, Leicester, Lincoln, Nottingham, and Stamford becoming important towns. For almost a century, Vikings and Anglo Saxons lived in harmony, trading, working, and intermarrying. Many English words come from Old Norse, including sky, ugly, husband, a gift, hey, and Thursday. Alfred the Great used peacetime to build forts, and his daughter Athelflaed waged war against Vikings after her husband died, becoming Lady of the Mercians. The five boroughs under Viking rule were eventually defeated, and in 954, the last Norse king, Eric Brodax, was forced out of Northumbria. Though Viking reign was squashed, retreating forces were finished. In 1013, Sweyn Forkbeard returned, becoming the first Danish king of England, followed by his son Sienna the Great until 1035. The Viking rule ended when King Harald successfully thwarted King Harald Hardrada of Norway in 1066 at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, expelling Viking invaders from England forever. The Middle Ages overlapped with the Viking Age, starting around 400 and lasting until 1485, after the fall of both Vikings and Anglo-Saxons in 1066. William the Conqueror began the Norman dynasty, ruling England until his death in 1087. The Normans invaded much of Wales, building castles for strongholds and bringing beautiful stone architecture, including Canterbury Cathedral, the Tower of London, and Oxford University. The feudal system meant Anglo Saxon landowners became peasant farmers working for governing powers, stripped of their wealth and heritage. A quarter of land went to William, another quarter to the Church of Rome, and the remainder to loyal followers. The Normans introduced new foods, cooking with imported spices like ginger, cardamom, pepper, and nutmeg. Affluent society enjoyed grand feasts while peasants ate salted or pickled foods. The High and Late Middle Ages saw social changes, rebellion, and artistic expression that would eventually inspire playwrights like William Shakespeare. In 1135, King Stephen of Blois began his reign, sparking a civil war with Empress Matilda, known as the Anarchy, lasting from 1138 to 1154. Innocent people were tortured and interrogated, goods stolen, and families starved. The civil war ended when Stephen died in 1154 and Matilda's son Henry took the throne. Henry's reign was peaceful until his friendship with Thomas Becket ended with Becket's murder in the Canterbury Cathedral. In 1199, King John took the throne, proving cruel and tyrannical, increasing taxes to hire mercenaries. When John refused to accept Stephen Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury, Pope Innocent III excommunicated him, leading to revolt. John was forced to sign the Magna Carta, agreeing to abide by laws and justices, four of which remain today. In 1265, King Henry either opposed citizens having government say, but Simon de Montfort created the first parliament, electing people to speak for average citizens. By 1298, taxation control was given to Parliament, bolstering the institution. The Black Plague devastated Britain in 1347, killing 1.5 million people. Initially believed to be spread by rats, it's now thought to be airborne, killing infected within days. Peasants were affected worst, with rotting corpses piled in streets and primitive science offering no cure. With peasant workers dying, it became difficult to tend fields, leading to starvation and decimation of entire villages. Peasant workers took advantage, moving to find higher paid positions, leading to government trying to stop travel and resulting in the Peasant Revolt of 1381. The War of the Roses saw the House of Lancaster and House of York fight between 1455 and 1485, both claiming descent from King Edward III. The Battle of Bosworth Field saw Richard III fall, with Henry Visa taking the throne and marrying Elizabeth of York, joining the opposing houses. The Tudor period began, focusing on reshaping religion, politics, and the monarchy. The Tudor period saw a 180-year reign with five monarchs, shaping England and later the United Kingdom through economic changes, religious reform, and women's roles. Henry Viceroy and Elizabeth had eight children, though only Arthur, Henry Margaret, and Mary reached adulthood. Henry Fuck prepared for church career, became king after his brothers died. His 36-year rule brought controversial changes, including turning away from the Catholic Church to establish the Church of England for male hair purposes. Henry had six marriages, with only one producing a son, Edward VI. After Henry's death in 1547, Edward VI was crowned but died just a few years later, leaving no male heirs. This left the Tudor government in chaos, with only Mary and Elizabeth as successors. Edward's devout Catholic half sister Mary became rightful heir, but Edward named Lady Jane Grey as queen for Protestant reasons. Mary refused to give up her birthright, resulting in Lady Jane reigning only 9 days before execution. Mary reversed Protestant changes, reverting England to Catholicism and persecuting Protestants, with 300 burned at the stake in what became known as the Marian persecution. Mary chose to marry Spanish Prince Philip Tuchel, but had no children, eventually naming Protestant half sister Elizabeth as heir. Elizabeth I had a long reign from 1558 to 1603, working hard to persuade her people to support her due to her intelligence and likable character. She earned nicknames like Gloriana, Good Queen Bess, and the Virgin Queen. When she passed, the Tudor period ended. During Tudor times, agriculture dominated with 90% of population working farmland, though coal, tin, iron, and lead mining grew exponentially. Famine and poverty remained rife, with laws against beggars fluctuating. Education became a focus, with boys sent to grammar schools while girls were limited to reading and writing. Leisurely activities like tennis, football, jousting, and gambling rose in popularity. After Elizabeth's death in 1603, James I became king, son of Mary, Queen of Scots. Catholics in England plotted assassination, storing gunpowder beneath the House of Lords in 1605, but Guy Fawkes and his conspirators were discovered on November 5th, leading to bonfire night celebrations. James brought peace, joining England and Scotland. After James died, Charles I took the throne in 1625, devoted to the Anglican Church and arts. He was forced to recall Parliament to raise money, but refused power sharing, leading to civil war breaking out in 1642. The conflict killed millions over 9 years, with castles returning to military service. King Charles was defeated by Parliament's army led by Sir Thomas Fairfax and Oliver Cromwell. Charles was imprisoned at Carisbrooke Castle, but secretly planned a second civil war, leading to his execution in 1649. Government and church powers weakened, seeing rise of radical ideas and growing religious sects. Oliver Cromwell ruled the Commonwealth as Lord Protector, allowing all religions but keeping control through his army until his death. Charles II returned in 1660, ruling 25 years with changes to arts, architecture, and leisure. The Great Plague of 1665 and Great Fire of London in 1666 occurred during his reign. Charles II was succeeded by his Catholic brother James II, who became disliked for violent trials and policies. William of Orange and James's daughter Mary invaded, leading to James fleeing and William III and Mary too being crowned. Mary's sister Anne took the throne in 1702, with the Act of Union beginning the United Great Britain. During the Stuart era, most common people were poor, living in terrible conditions made worse by population influx. Poor laws, first introduced by Elizabeth I, helped the poorest. Vagrancy became a huge issue, with impoverished people forced to beg or claim charity. Many poor traveled to the New World for better lives. Working class ate legume based diets while affluent ate rich meat diets, leading to illnesses. Social roles were defined by sexes, with girls expected to follow orders of father, brothers, husbands, and sons. By the early 17th century, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland were unified with England, and in 1707, Queen Anne passed the Acts of Union. Life expectancy remained short, with childbirth dangerous for both mother and child. Personal hygiene was not held in high regard. leading to parasites infesting all social classes. People enjoyed dancing, singing, music, betting on cockfighting and dog fighting, and public executions. Food and drinks from other countries became popular through global trade routes, introducing furs from North America, tea from China, and spices from India. The Georgian era saw the Industrial Revolution, with Britain dominated by steam, canals, and factories. Textile workers would spin, weave, dye, and repair clothing in small scale operations. Areas specialized in specific industries like metal production, mining, and glasswork. State of the art technologies increased food production, though affordability remained a problem. Foreign workers offered cheap labor, creating unemployment and relocating rural people to cities. Factories grew rapidly, increasing manufacturing and technology development. Limited power sources initially slowed production, relying on water wheels, windmills, and horses. Thomas Newcomen's steam driven piston engine advanced workflow, pumping water from flooded mines, transporting goods via trains, and powering textile mills. By the late 19th century, around 2,000 steam engines were in use. Coal became one of the most valuable industries, with Darby family reimagining iron manufacturing for stronger metals. Richard Arkwright's water frame and James Hargreaves' spinning jenny allowed large-scale textile spinning. Steam industries evolved, with factories sprouting throughout the country, providing jobs on unprecedented scales. Children were employed for intricate work, often in dangerous environments. Some factories employed almost 1,000 workers at their peak. Canals transported coal supplies, with over 2,000 miles of canals available by 1815. Roads remained in poor condition, causing trade difficulties, leading to the Turnpike Acts for building and maintaining roads. By the 1780s, improved roads made travel more efficient, reducing journey times significantly. The late 1700s saw a strange fascination with criminals depicted as heroes in newspapers and pamphlets. Highwaymen became celebrities, inspiring others to commit crimes. When thief Jack Sheppard was publicly hanged in 1724, 200,000 people attended. Crime was at an all time high, with outcry for improved investigations and punishments. Punishment was left to victims, with two constables in each parish working voluntarily. Paid watchmen called Charlie's patrolled London streets, performing investigations and arrests. In 1751, Henry Fielding started the Bow Street Runners, the first armed men carrying out investigations on behalf of the public. Suspects were judged by local magistrates without juries, often leading to innocent people being imprisoned or executed. Officials were volunteers from influential society, many not well versed in law taking positions as statements of power rather than justice. The most serious crimes were dealt with by Crown Court or the Old Bailey. The experience for common people was frightening, with trials conducted in Latin and criminal defenses unavailable until later Georgian period. Early 1800s courts followed the Bloody Code, with 200 crimes justifying execution, including less serious crimes like poaching and vandalism. Most crimes ended with imprisonment, striking fear in hearts of many. Hangings were public spectacles, deterring others. In 1783, hangings moved to Tyburn, Middlesex, with up to 20 criminals hung simultaneously. After executions, white doves were released as symbols of respect. Criminals were often sent to American or Australian colonies for unpaid labor. Punishments included fines, flogging, branding, and lifelong imprisonment in houses of correction. The 19th century Victorian era saw exponential growth with rural industries dwarfed by factories and urbanization. The Victorian era started in 1837 and ended around World War I, despite Queen Victoria's death in 1901. Population doubled between 1801 and 1871 due to work opportunities. Migration increased population, though many left for American colonies seeking better lives. Irish workers made up a majority of migrants, especially in 1845 during the Irish potato famine. Legislation protected child and adult workers, ending slavery within the British Empire. Compulsory education for children under 10 allowed common people to take up skilled jobs. The police force evolved and organized, while prison reform improved conditions. Social class divides remained, but social freedom and wage retention improved many lives. Entrepreneurs used wealth to rise in society, building houses with domestic servants. By 1880s, 1.25 million people worked as domestics, more than any other industry. The hierarchy was no longer governed solely by royalty, ushering in social change. The working class could vote in 1918, with women's suffrage ending in 1930. In 1776, Britain lost the American Empire after American independence, turning sides to India. Throughout the Victorian era, expansion continued, opening trade routes and prompting conflicts. In 1851, the Great Exhibition presented industrial and technological wonders, with British Empire leading trading and military strength. The empire held so many territories that the sun never set upon the empire. Leisure boomed with holidays, seaside vacations, museums, theaters, sports, and music halls. Middle class houses evolved with iron cooking ranges and gas powered geysers, eliminating need for maids carrying hot water. Coffee shops were replaced by offices using the revolutionary telegraph system, allowing global trade. In 1877, the telephone was invented. Henry Fox Talbot invented photographs in 1834, known as sun pictures. George Jennings presented state of the art lavatories at the Great Exhibition, leading to public lavatories erected in 1852. Thomas Crapper developed the flush aspect of the lavatory. Factories as established in Manchester for humidity produced cotton, but were filled with dust and cotton fibers, causing breathing illnesses. Large machines lacked safety protocols, causing accidents. Children were sent into machines to clear blockages. Coal mining kept the country thriving, but conditions underground were terrible. Children were hired to drag wagons, working in dangerous conditions. In 1815, Sir Humphrey Davy invented the safety lamp, allowing deeper excavations. Ventilation techniques were implemented and compressed air systems invented in 1848. Employing children under 12 was banned in 1860, though employees grew from 200,000 to 500,000, excavating 44 million tons of coal by 1880. By 1850, people could work only 10 hours with night work abolished, and lighting and ventilation regulations improved mining. Workers were often paid with tokens for selected shops, leading to inflated prices. The Truck Act of 1831 sought to end this practice. The British Empire became the most innovative market, though this achievement became its downfall, inspiring parts of the empire to seek independence. After Archduke Ferdinand's death, Britain entered World War I, marking the modern age focusing on weaponry and strategic warfare. 16 million soldiers and civilians were lost. Britain depended on industry and agriculture, shifting production to munitions for war. Women worked in factories and nursing roles while miners were drafted as tunnelers. Germany was more prepared, gaining advantage in trench warfare. British miners proved skilled at tunneling, but coal shortages led to rationing. Those refusing enlistment were forced to become miners. Agriculture struggled as workers were enlisted, but Women's Land Army sent 2 to 60,000 women to farms. World War I ended November 11, 1918, but World War II broke out in 1945 when Germany invaded Poland. Between 1945 and 1951, Britain healed from WI with the Labour Party replacing Winston Churchill, hailed as war hero. The Labour Party was established in 1900 to oppose the Conservative Party, winning the 1945 election as people believed the government didn't understand ordinary needs. The Labour Party established national insurance in 1946 and the National Health Service NHS in 1948, providing free health care. Industrial sectors were nationalized, making environments safer. Economy recovered and industries returned to efficiency. The Cold War between United States and Soviet Union began, with Britain supporting America and participating in Korean War. Britain became a regional NATO member in 1949. India achieved independence in 1947, beginning British Empire dismantlement. Between 1950 and 2000, immigration increased, class division ended, welfare state established, and Britain joined a union with Europe. Manufacturing shifted to services and imports. Queen Elizabeth II became queen on February 6, 1952, following her father's death. Egypt's nationalization of Suez Canal in 1956 led to invasion attempt by Britain. France and Israel facing criticism from United States and Soviet Union causing withdrawal and pound devaluation. The 1960s brought liberation and expression, moving away from traditional institutions, reforming abortion, divorce, sexual orientation, and racial discrimination. Economic crisis saw Britain spending too much on defenses without investing enough in industry. Northern Ireland conflict erupted between Unionists and Republicans, with Britain sending army in 1969 and taking over control in 1972 after Bloody Sunday lasting 35 years. Oil prices rose in 1970s, affecting British economy, leading to union strikes. Margaret Thatcher became prime minister, making massive changes to economy, cutting spending and causing job losses, leading to 1981 riots. Argentina took over Falklands in 1982, defeated by Thatcher. Privatization in 1980s allowed more British people to invest in shares. By 1985, Ireland accepted as part of United Kingdom. With new millennium, British Empire ended and Britain entered European Union, eventually leading to 2016 Brexit. Queen Elizabeth died on September 8, 2022 after 70 years reign, moving United Kingdom into a new era. In 2023, the country faces an energy crisis while continuing efforts to deter conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Throughout its incredible history, the United Kingdom has made integral contributions to the world from industry to culture, making significant impacts on film, television, music, and theater. The most significant contribution remains the English language itself, which has become a universal language, bringing cultures, economies, and nations together globally.